I just watched Daredevil Born Again Season 2, Episode 5, and this was a pretty great episode. Spoiler discussion, that is what this is. Obviously, why would you be clicking on this video if you weren't expecting that? But hey, look, I'm a benevolent YouTuber and I gave you a warning either way. So we start off the episode with that shard of glass really in there. Just really lodged into Vanessa's head. Kingpin is doing the whole thing of, let me into the surgery room. I'm a big Kingpin and I demand to be involved. And then there's like a young nurse that's being like, you gotta stay back, Kingpin, you gotta stay back. And I'm pretty sure this is exactly a scene that we've seen before. I can't remember in which season of the Netflix show, but I'm pretty sure this like exact sequence of events happened before in the original run of Daredevil. And yeah, like there is definitely a good amount of tension here because as I was watching it, I was like, are they going to do it? Like, are they going to kill Vanessa? Like, she's not, I mean, she is one of the main characters, obviously, but she's not like Daredevil or Kingpin. Like she is of that tier of character where they could kill her and it would have impact. But it is also conceivable. So, yeah, throughout this entire episode, I was like, okay, I don't know. Maybe they will. And spoiler alert, they do. Now, obviously, one of the highlights of this episode is Matt and Bullseye. Like, their conversations were really fantastic, really fantastically performed by these two actors. And by the way, before I get into that, can we just talk about how cool Daredevil's suit is in this season? Like, there were some shots in the trailer, like the mid-season trailer where it was showing off the suit in daylight, and I'm like, this whole thing that they're doing where Matt painted the suit black and now over the course of the season the like black paint is wearing off and it's like part black and part red. I'm gonna say this, the suit in this season is one of the best comic book movie/TV show suits that we've ever seen. It is beautiful. Anyways, absolutely love like all the conversations that Daredevil and Bullseye were having in this episode. I love the nihilism of Bullseye where he was basically going on and on about how like, man, like every day people save lives, every day people kill, people take away lives, like none of it really matters, like who cares? If I killed all these people and whatnot. But he's also like looking towards this whole thing of like, well, if there is a God, and again, this is something I'm actually not too sure about. Like, is there a thing in Catholicism where like, if you do a bad deed, you can then do a good deed and it'll like cancel itself out in the afterlife? Is that even a thing? Or is that just something that they're bringing up in the show? I don't actually know. But yeah, like this whole thing of that, like, that I think a lot of us have, where like in the back of our minds are like, okay, but like all this stuff is probably bullshit, but what if there is a God? And so he's like trying to do this good thing or this good deed, which is killing Vanessa. Yeah, like seeing Bullseye like explore his philosophies was super interesting. And obviously seeing Matt, struggling with, do I save the life of the guy who killed my best friend? And obviously we have to talk about these flashback sequences with Foggy. And are you happy, all you color grading experts on Twitter? Look, they have some scenes that look like the original show. Yeah, again, the endless conversations around the color grading and cinematography of the show is so funny to watch on Twitter, because it's like, listen, I'm not going to sit here and say that you shouldn't criticize the show if you want to criticize it. But it's just like at a certain point, it's like, do we need to go on and on about it? I don't know. Either way, yeah, like these scenes were great, and they do a really good job of like cementing, especially for a lot of us that maybe haven't seen the original Daredevil show since what, like 2017. like over a decade ago. And especially in those early seasons when like they really that these scenes really established that like Foggy was like a really important moral grounding for Matt. Like he, even though he wasn't religious, I love how these flashbacks actually are emblematic of like, hey, Foggy helped Matt maintain his principles, even religiously, even though Foggy wasn't religious, which I think that's just like super interesting thing that this show sort of added to flesh out those characters that I'm pretty sure wasn't a thing in the Netflix show, unless you could people can correct me if I'm wrong. Like that specific detail, like it was super fascinating seeing how Matt, at least initially, was going to be willing to not save the guy who they were defending. That is an interesting thing that Foggy is the person that like initially pushed them forward in defending the defenseless, doing the right thing, even if it's not for financial gain. Like these flashbacks, I think are honestly really cool to see. I will say one major criticism that I still have with this season is the relationship between Daniel and BB, because it's just like at this point it's just like, how does Kingpin / Buck, how are they not, I mean, I think they know that BB and Daniel are probably the ones leaking the information, but like how are they not cracking down on it? Honestly, I wasn't going to have this criticism because I thought that the person in the trunk was going to be BB Urich. But no, like this is just some random guy with a mustache, unless it's a character that has been in the show, but I just don't recognize who it is. If it was BB, that actually would have been kind of a cool situation where it's like Daniel having to confront whether or not he actually wants to be a part of this. They had that whole theme of Kingpin is a guy who can change your life and yada yada yada. I don't know. The whole thing is weird, and it would also be one thing if I was like super invested in their relationship and I was super invested in Daniel being morally conflicted on, do I want to, do my job here with Kingpin, or but if I do in order to do that, I would have to, give up the love of my life. Like if I was super invested in that relationship, that I could get attached to the storyline from that angle, but I just don't care about them. So yeah, this is a super big swing and a miss. This is not one of those side stories that they're repairing, at least so far in the season. Also, speaking of side stories that they're not really repairing, where's Heather? That feels like they totally gave up on Heather. I will say, though, speaking of side characters that they are kind of repairing from the first season, Buck himself is significantly more interesting here in this season. We, of course, get this flashback between him and Wesley. Because it's like one of the things that you kind of wonder about the Netflix show even, and one of the things that they kind of bring up earlier on in this season is the fact that Kingpin's his goons or whatever are like loyal to him, and they actually have like an actual friendship and companionship, and it is interesting that they kind of explain that in these flashbacks, which is that Kingpin changes your life, right? Like he takes people that are kind of at a low point and he gives them opportunity, which I think is an interesting bit of lore to add to all of this, is that Buck was one of those people, and presumably Wesley was one of those people. Now Daniel is being groomed to be one of those people. So yeah, man, it's just this episode just did such a cool job of even fleshing out the Netflix show to a certain extent, which is not something that I was super. I wasn't necessarily expecting out of this Daredevil Born Again show after season 1. But yeah, really cool seeing Matt decide to save Bullseye because of his memories of Foggy, really solidifying his ideology here, and like realizing in a Catholic church that the best way to honor Foggy is to carry on his point of view that, yes, even though somebody does horrible things in life, even though somebody does commit crimes, yada yada yada, do they deserve that maximal punishment of death? Or do they deserve mercy? Do they deserve second chances and whatnot? Really powerful stuff. You know who ain't gonna be thinking about mercy though? That's Big Willie over here, because it of course gets revealed at the end of the episode that she has like some kind of what's the proper term for this? Amnesia, I think it is. To where, yeah, she's clearly going to be having memory problems now. And she's basically like, they actually did an interesting thing here. They didn't kill her. Or at least she's not presumed. I mean, she might be dead by the end of the episode because she ends up like passing out, but she might just have amnesia, which is some might say a fate worse than death. Not being present and not being there all the way. Like, that's, we are about to see Kingpin who have what's the term I'm thinking of? His hell is going to have no fury. What am I saying? I'm tired. But no, yeah, we're gonna see Kingpin go on a rampage. So yeah, man, listen, all the critics were like, the first 3 episodes they're bad or whatever, or they're slow, but episode 4 onwards, the gas is on, the foot is on the gas pedal, and the car just doesn't stop. And at least so far, they're really not wrong, because I thought episode 4 was really cool, and this episode was, not super action packed or anything, but just has a lot of really big emotional gravitas and weight. I will say though, I'm just going to point this out, they use Jessica Jones to advertise this series. Kind of bullshit that she hasn't shown up yet. I mean, she has to show up next episode, right? I feel like if she's not going to show up until episode 7 or no 6, it's like, why even put her in the trailers as prominently as you did? I don't know. I would argue that, but either way, the show's good enough that I'm not too bothered by it. But yeah, let me know what you think about this episode in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next episode or video of the episode. Goodbye.